How you doing?
Doing well, man.
Made the drive out here, and thank God it didn't rain.
Yeah, got right ahead of it. And, beat the storm.
Right, and then how you feeling? I don't know if you could tell me what you just told me off camera, but
Yeah, I feel good. Everything's going well. It's been a crazy Friday the 13th thus far. We've had a lot go down just today with fight news and opponent changes and everything that's been going down. So, I'm an open book though, so ask any questions you want.
But how is it like when you get an opponent change? Is like, especially like now you're stepping into bare knuckle. Is it like, is there anything changing, like game plan for sure right or?
Yeah. So I have Alex Morono, Ricky Tercios, and Matt Wald at the gym, and we study opponents thoroughly. All of us. Mm-hmm. So I am one of the coaches as well as one of the fighters. So when I look at a opponent opportunity, I'm not just looking at it how I would fight him, but how the fight would go based off of performance, good, bad, medium, whatever the case may be.
Right.
With this new opponent, it's looking like it's going to be a really favorable matchup. Mm-hmm. But the biggest thing with any opponent change is you always look at them as if they're going to be the best version of themselves, and then that way you're not surprised by any output or performance. They could be coming right off the couch, or they could have been in the gym every single day waiting for their own opportunity.
Yeah, man.
So that's one thing. And when we got the new opponent, I hit up the coaches. I immediately sent the Tapology page, put everything through, and I got the call back from each one of the coaches, and every one of them was like, "Let's do it. Let's take it. Like this is one of those ones where we won't get an opportunity like this again."
Yeah. And how you feel, bro? Because bare knuckles is for the dogs. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like bare knuckles for the dogs. How you feeling about it?
As soon as bare knuckle came out, I was very excited by it, and I'm talking years ago when they very first. I think they just had their 7-year anniversary. So when they first started having the bare knuckle matchups, I was like, that looks so fun. And I remember my coaches, my original, like Alex Morono is my number one coach, been my coach since the very beginning. He said, bare knuckle is where guys' careers go to die. And I thought to myself, man, maybe it's where guys go to have their careers survive a little bit longer. Because like I'm done with MMA. I'm not getting slammed around. I'm not getting leg kicked. No more elbows or knees to the face. But I still got that dog in me. You know what I'm saying? Like I still feel like I have a little bit of the fire left to put out. It's not extinguished yet. And that's that opportunity with bare knuckle, is that guys like me where, I'm a little bit older, I've been in the game a long time. So I'm excited for the new opportunity, but also like people have said to me like, that's so brutal. You're going to do bare knuckle. The only brutal part is the visuals of knuckles to face. You're not getting kicked in the head. You're not getting slammed on your back. You're not getting choked out. No knees to the face, no flying knees, no head kicks. You just punches to the body, punches to the face. Move your head, keep your guard up, bite down on your mouthpiece. That doesn't seem so bad to me.
Hey man, it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's all about, and man, hold on. Your old nickname was the let me see. I did a little research. The Master of Disaster.
Yes.
Right? Master of Disaster. So I feel like this fits perfectly.
Yeah.
And also on the commentary team, I heard them say that you had did backyard fighting.
Yeah. That was a long time ago. That was my first taste of learning that I did want to fight. I was always scrappy in high school, and then, a couple of kids got together and they wanted to see what each one of the other kids was made of. The cool thing was there was no animosity. We didn't all like dislike each other and we were like, oh, finally an opportunity to fight this one person. It was more so just a bunch of dumb kids that wanted to scrap it out and see what would happen. And I did fairly well in the process of that. I didn't lose any of the backyard fights. So after a few of them, I was like, man, we should go try to find a gym and go do this for real, because this is kind of unsafe, because there are no mouthpieces, a pair of 4-ounce gloves, no wraps, no cups, shirts off, shorts on, gloves, no mouth guard, let's go fight each other. And it was rough. I saw some guys get badly beat up. I saw some dudes throw 1,000 punches and never land one. And then I beat some people up. I never got beat up, which was good. So, but it became one of those things where it was like my first introduction to testing myself in fighting. Now, was it good fighting? No, not at all, which was why I'm glad that I joined a gym and learned how to actually fight. And I trained for a long time after that before I ever actually fought for my first amateur fight. I trained for 2.5 years in a gym with no fights except for jiu-jitsu matches.
And how long did the backyard brawls go? Like,
ooh, not long. Maybe like 9 or 10 months from the first one to the last one. What ended up happening is it was a group of about 60 to 70 kids that were all doing it. We all lived in Cyprus.
wow.
And we would all get together. We probably did 4 or 5 of them all together. Some kids would fight twice in a day. I did that once. But what ended up happening was we were all a bunch of young kids. These were unsanctioned, illegal backyard brawls. So a bunch of the kids got in trouble for filming them and posting them on YouTube. And it's sad because I had those old fights on YouTube somewhere, but I can't find them anywhere.
If anybody knows.
If you can ever find it, one of them was like the name of the fight was Jake versus Marshawn, part 1 and part 2. And I have a mohawk in the fight, and the dude I fight has big, long dreadlocks. And so we were like 2 very polar opposite dudes in the looks area. Like I was like the punk rocker, and he was like kind of like a Rasta kid, and we beat the tar out of each other. It was cool. I went for an arm bar in the fight, but I didn't know how to do arm bars at the time, so I did it totally wrong.
Man, and stuff like that is just like, it's just the memories in the head, like where you're just like I did stuff like that,
Yeah.
you know, growing up.
Honestly, what's funny is I still know that guy. You know, he's got like 6 kids now, I feel like. Maybe less than that. I don't want to, Marshawn, if you end up watching this, I don't know how many kids
We're
you
blood
have.
brothers, though,
But
man.
you have a lot of kids. I know that. And he did never end up fighting. He ended up getting like a normal job and pursuing his family dreams, which is cool.
But he had that
But I
dog
still see him,
yeah.
and it's like on social media, and I'm like, I always think back. I'm like, hey man, remember when we did that fight that one time? He's like, dude, I can't believe you became a pro fighter, and I'm like, well, But what's funny is like even looking back, that was all during high school. If I hit up any of my old high school teachers, they all will tell me, oh, we knew you'd be a pro fighter. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, dude, you were shadowboxing in class like every day. We'd have a conversation with you, and you'd be pumping punches at us, and I was like, I never even noticed. But I like tried to watch every UFC fight. I tried to watch as much MMA that I could underground, like doing every little bit of like fan following that I could, with what little was out at that time.
And it was harder at that time too.
And it was hard. Like UFCs were like maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year. Like they were so few and far between each other. By the time I became like an adult and joined a gym, even at that point, I joined a gym when I was like 19 years old, maybe 18, turning 19. And I think UFC was maybe once every 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
I remember we would go to Buffalo Wild Wings, we would watch the fights, and then we would go to steal the posters off the walls every single time because we thought that was the coolest thing, is because where else could you get stuff like that? I wish I still had some of those old posters. They'd probably be worth some money now.
They'd probably be worth some money right now.
Yeah, but I remember I watched Anderson Silva fight Chael Sonnen at it was either Buffalo Wild Wings or Wings and More. It was one of the two. I think it was actually Wings and More now that I think about it. But, I mean, I remember the old WEC days watching Uriah Faber fight. I remember one of my most favorite fights to watch was Uriah Faber versus Mike Brown. And when Uriah broke his hands and he was like having to slap Mike Brown in the face to keep the fight going, like broke his hands. And I remember he ended one round. It was a championship fight. And he walked back to his corner and he pointed at his hand and he was like, it's done. And then it was like the next round, he broke his other hand and he was like, both hands are broken, and he's like slapping Mike Brown. Loses the fight. Honestly thought he won the fight too, because he threw a ton of elbows but his back was on the cages the whole time, and Mike Brown got a ton of takedowns. So back then the scoring system was way different than it is now. So but yeah, man, the history of MMA and then doing all those backyard brawls, and as stupid as it was, I don't suggest anyone doing backyard brawls, especially with as easy it is to get fights nowadays. It was definitely like what gave me that first like bug of just addiction for MMA. So.
Hold on, let me see.
Yeah. I think this part, right? No? Yes? Yeah.
Look at you, man.
Yeah, I've handled some of this equipment before.
But before that, bro, I met your mom. She seems nice,
Yeah.
right? When you were coming home after all these backyard brawls,
Yeah.
what was
Honestly,
her
man, one of the worst fights I ever got into that wasn't one of those backyard brawls. I just got into a fight with a kid in high school. My mom was there. My dad was there. This was my very first fight of a real, actual, like, me and another kid did not like each other. My parents were there, my mom and dad, all my friends. I was like, for sure I was going to go fight this kid and beat him up. And he beat me up so bad in front of my whole family. You know, my sisters and brothers were all moved away at that time, but my mom and dad were there, all my best friends were there, and they just watched me get super beat up. I landed one punch in the fight, which was a big old overhand right, after getting beat up for like 3 or 4 minutes. And then the guy, after I hit him with the overhand right, I was like, I don't want to fight anymore. And he was like, me neither, because he was like wobbled from the right hand, which looking back, I'm like, man, I should have swarmed him after, but I just didn't think about it. But yeah, so my mom's been there since the very get-go. I got in another fight in that same spot in my front yard with another dude, and he actually sucker punched me. I didn't know we were going to fight yet. I knew we were going to fight, but I didn't know the fight had started, and I foolishly took my shirt off. And as soon as I pulled my shirt over my head, he sucker punched me in the face. And then my mom was right there. So she like shoved him off of me and was like, get up and let him fight. And then he ran away. It was so crazy.
W mom.
You know, and it was like, so yeah, she's been there since the beginning, dude. And she's awesome. She's there for me. She's been there for me nonstop throughout my life. You know, she's here now. She helps me raise my kids. I'm a single dad. So she lives with me and she actually, her very first time going to one of my actual sanctioned events was that last Submission Hunter Pro fight where I won the 155 no-gi title.
You said that was her first time?
That was her first time ever going to a fight. Wow. And the reason for that is because she had said so many times, I don't know if I could watch somebody punching you in the face without trying to break it up. Uh-huh. And I was like, you're not allowed to go to the fights because that's illegal.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, so she finally made it to one. And that was that last Submission Hunter Pro match. And so it was a little more controlled, no punches to the face.
Yeah.
But it was cool, man. It was on Mother's Day weekend also.
Yo, so shout out to the mothers.
Yeah, exactly.
Shout out to the mothers.
Yeah. So she was able to come out and, view me shining at my best. So it was cool. It was a nice like achievement too, because I always wanted to win a pro title.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that didn't quite happen in MMA. So for it to happen in jiu-jitsu was really awesome.
You know, but and I think that's like super cool though with how the combat sport community is, right? Because like in football, right, you're a running back, right? But if coach would be like, hey man, can you go play wide receiver? Can you play tight end? You're a football player. Mm-hmm. You're a combat sport athlete. Mm-hmm. So you do MMA, jiu-jitsu. Now you're doing bare knuckle.
Yeah.
You know, it's different avenues that you can do. You're a coach, you know,
Yeah.
It's like multiple hats
Yeah.
when doing this. And congrats, like you said, you got a shiny belt. You know what I'm saying? For
It's
jiu-jitsu.
nice too. I like it. It's big, it's heavy, it's shiny.
I seen it, man. I was like, wow, that's a pretty nice belt. You know? And you plugged in your bare knuckle debut. How did that feel, man, when you got the call? Or, you know, how did it all come together, you know?
Man, I had retired from MMA. I was just done physically and mentally. I just couldn't do the camps anymore. I had mentioned it. I have a few injuries that are kind of gym secrets. I don't really disclose certain injuries.
For sure.
But injuries that I don't mind disclosing is I've broken my leg in a fight before. First 10 seconds when I fought in Arizona, LFA against Paris Stanford. He kicked me low. I turned the wrong direction and exposed my calf, and it snapped my fibula bone, which is the thin bone in your leg. And we didn't know it was broken, so I fought on that broken leg for 3 rounds, and it was one of the worst experiences. But then that has been a nagging injury, and then when I fought Mateus Camillo, he just opened every combo with a calf kick. Literally, like, and it was only one round. He kicked me in the leg like 8 times, and he severed a muscle in my leg that time as well, which I'll show you later. I got a big old nasty looking muscle on my shin. And at that point, that's when I took my first like bit of time off, like retirement, other than injuries that I've had. And it was one of those things where I just, in my head, I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to go through the wear and tear of this anymore. I'm getting a little bit older. You know, I had mentioned in other interviews, I've talked to the matchmakers for the UFC. Like, I know Mick Maynard, you know, personally. He used to be actually the kickboxing coach at my gym. So, you know, my whole entire, like, older crew, all of the, you know, Alex Morono, Matt Wald, all of us know Mick Maynard really well. And he was kind of one of those dudes that was like, you know, you're getting a little older. You might not. You know, UFC's all about investments, which I totally understand. Yeah. They want to get longevity out of their fighters. And at 30, you know, I'll be 36 this year. So I just made it when I was 34, about to be 35, which is when I retired in October, and I was turning 35 in November. I was just like, man, I don't know how many more I got left in me. Yeah. And the camps were getting more and more difficult. And then again, the other injuries that I have that I won't quite mention, they were making camp really difficult, like to the point where my coaches were like, we're going to pull you off this last fight. We don't know if you can make it. And then beyond that was, you know, the other issues on my home life, going through divorce, child custody battles. Those things really, really affect you as a competition athlete. You know, you're trying to focus to give yourself and your family a better life, but you have somebody just dragging you down. Yeah. And so it just got to a point where I was just like, I'm ready to hang the gloves up. So we made the choice. I was super injured in that camp. The fight was a week away, and my coaches were like, we're going to pull you off the fight, and we'll reschedule it. And I was like, no, we can't reschedule. This is the last one, guys. I wasn't going to tell you, but I'm going to tell you now. I'm retiring after this. I'm going to take the gloves off in the cage, win or lose. And they were just like, oh. So, you know, a week later, we win the fight against Pena Alamov. It was a great, you know, scrap, you know, finished the fight out, retired. And then maybe a week later, I get hit up by my current manager, Tony Orozco. He's awesome. At the time, I was with Iridium. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Yeah. Worst managing company for local fighters in the world. They might be great for guys in the UFC, but if you are on the local level, they will act like you do not exist. I was 7-0 when they picked me up, and they, you know, made it seem like they were going to be behind me no matter what. I took my first loss, and they just turned their back on me immediately. And then, you know, like I had a great, you know, series of things happen after that first loss, which was, one is I broke my leg in the fight right after, which was terrible, but it was like, what a great thing to mention. Like, this guy broke his leg in a fight and he came back and fought anyways for 3 rounds. And yeah, he lost the fight, but it's like, what a testament to his toughness and his skill level. Nothing. A couple months later, I get shot, you know, in a hunting accident. And then, you know, COVID hits, a year goes by. We got to go through all of the COVID stuff, and then also I'm healing from the injury the whole time. And I come back to my managers, and I'm like, hey, I'm going to fight again. I healed up. What can we do with this story of me making it back? And they just didn't care. So it was like, you know, and I'm to the point now, especially not doing MMA anymore. Like, again, like, there are guys that work for Iridium that are great. But the main guy of Iridium, he is the worst. Jason House is honestly like, again, he's the worst. He's the worst. He might be a good manager for guys in the UFC. He is a terrible manager for guys out of the UFC. So when Orozco hit me up and he was like, hey, I represent BKFC fighters, you know, what can I do to get you in? You know, can I talk to them about you? And I was like, man, go ahead and mention my name. And I wasn't signed by him. And he was like, let me do this. If I get you signed tomorrow, sign with me and let me be your manager from now on. And I wasn't under contract with Iridium. So I was like, yeah, let's go. And he literally the next day was like, I got you signed, 3-fight contract.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, let's get it. And it was a nice contract. It paid well. And I was like, dude, this is perfect. Like,
he had that.
Yeah, he was ready to go.
Yeah,
he was ready to go.
That. Yeah.
So, man, I switched over, and honestly, he's been great. He calls me on the regular, takes care of me, gets me sponsors.
That shirt looked loaded.
Yeah.
That shirt looked loaded.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, he does so well on just all the avenues of being a manager. He takes care of you. He's not looking to be the money hungry manager that is Iridium. So it's just one of those things where when he offered it, I was just more than willing, and I already had that initial interest in BK. So it was like, bare knuckle fighting just seems so awesome to me anyway. So why not do it for the best promotion that exists, the number one promotion for bare knuckle fighting, which is BKFC. And so when it all came to fruition, I think it was in November. I retired in October, and I was signed to BKFC in November. So it took a little while to get matched up. I do have one of those MMA records where guys look at it and they're just like, yeah, no, I'm not fighting that guy. And that happened all throughout my MMA career. Like, dudes know that if they fight me in MMA, I'm gonna take you down, I'm gonna beat you up, I'm gonna submit you, or I'm gonna TKO you. The other thing is I'm very confident in my stand-up, so in the process of getting you down, I'm also going to punch you in the face, kick you in the head, knee in the face, elbow you, and then take you down anyways. Yeah. So I feel like I'm a very well-rounded fighter, and then that's kind of been a little bit of a process is getting matched up. But, now here we are, a week out. We're about to fight. We're about to cut weight. We're about to do the damn thing.
Do you feel like it came? Ooh, yeah. After you said that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it came full circle though, dude? Like, you started backyard fighting, bare knuckle, and now towards you never know. Maybe something happens. UFC calls because it's happened before.
It has.
Yeah. And I'm wishing the best, hoping the best. But in your mind, how you had already have this, like, this is the end. Now you're doing bare knuckle again. Like, you started it like it, and now you're going towards the end. Yeah,
man, I am one of those guys where in life so much has happened. Nothing really surprises me anymore. But I do get excited for different opportunities to present themselves, and this is one of those ones where like I said, as soon as bare knuckles started again, like in the world, I was like, I'm gonna do that. Like, that will be something I do, like bucket list style almost, where it's like, I'm gonna do this simply because I want to. Like, the reason I do martial arts is because it's difficult. It's the hardest thing to do in the world other than going to war. I had mentioned that before. There's only one thing harder, in my opinion, to do than fight somebody in a locked cage, and that's go across the world to go fight somebody with a rifle in your hands. Yeah. And so that's the main reason I do it, is because it's a skill that will test you constantly. Like, one thing that I can always say is, I want my kids to be able to tell their friends, like, my dad will beat your dad up. And that is one thing that I stand by. I can't wait for some kid to be like, my dad wants to talk to you in the front yard. I'm going to be like, oh, cool, let's go. Did your dad Google me first? He should probably Google me.
He should Google. Yeah. So check out my Tapology. Yeah. Then it'll be just like the other fighters that you say, look at your record below.
Recontemplating, like, son, why are you going to get me in trouble,
Yeah. Nah, man, but hearing you, and like I said, I was really excited to talk to you. It's not done. We're still talking. But, like, because you have experience. You've been in this game for so long, and you're going through stuff, like, and I want to touch back with the agency stuff, right? Like Iridium. I know fighters, too, who also, they've said some words about it as well. So what advice are you giving now that you've had bad and now you have good?
Yeah.
So how do you inform these fighters, because you're also a head coach too?
Yeah.
How do you try to not necessarily like be like, no, don't sign with them, not that, but like, give them your opinion and be like, hey man, this is what I went through, take it how you want, you know what I'm saying?
One thing is if you're gonna do a manager, do your background checks. Like, talk to other people that are managed by them, see how they feel. On the local level, I'm going to be 100% honest. You really don't need a manager. You need a good coach. A good coach will do the same process for you, and they won't take any money from you. They just want to see you succeed, because you succeeding is them succeeding. To whereas with a manager, you don't win, they got 20 other fighters that are up to fight a week later. Yeah. So make sure that you understand that some of the things when you're just starting out can be handled by your coach. Beyond that, once you are at the level I'm at, where you do need like that international, like that national level of pull, where you're not, it's not just local guys that you're trying to get matched up with. We all know each other here in Houston. Mm-hmm. I don't know guys from other states, but my manager is the one who can say, hey, I got guys here, I got guys there. And that's where you do need it. So once you start on that, I'm going to fight people from all over the country, that's really when you need the managers, in my opinion. And so I would just be cautious, do your background checking, but also trust your teammates, trust your coaches. Like, your coaches are going to get you the right matches. You don't need a manager for that. Getting interviews is not as hard as people think. Sometimes you just got to hit up dudes on Instagram and be like, yo, what's up, man? I want to do an interview. So, sometimes it's that. But beyond it, anything else, really just like the background checking. Like, if somebody's offering to manage you, be like, well, who else do you manage? And then go hit that person up and be like, hey, what's your honest opinion? Like, this guy just asked me about managing me. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where just like you would study a fighter that you're getting matched up with, just study the person that's gonna represent you.
That's fire.
And then you know what you're gonna be getting into. Yeah. And I wish that I had done that. I'll tell you this: when I started with Iridium, they weren't very big. They had like a few guys in the UFC. They were mostly a local level management company. At the time, I think First Round was the number one managing company. And now, Iridium's probably the number one managing company for the UFC. And that's great for them. I don't wish any ill will with them.
Your experience.
In my experience, they just really dropped the ball and turned their backs on me, and like really showed me that they just didn't care, because they were like, well, we're making $20,000 and $30,000 from these guys. We're making like $250 off of you. Yeah. So we just don't have the time to get you anything when it comes to help. The most that they did was make fight shorts for me. That's literally it. They didn't make my banner. They didn't match my fights. They didn't give me interviews. They didn't get me sponsors. Like, what is a manager for other than to like help you with all the smaller details of fighting
and help you grow?
And help me grow, yeah. And so, again, it's just do your studying. That's the advice.
No, man, I definitely think a lot of people would take this part of the interview and be like, wow, like, you're right. Like, because everybody's just like you, kind of, or similar. You just start and you just like, I don't know where to go from here. I'm just fighting. I'm just fighting. That's it. But they see the big picture, the UFC, the lights, whatever, and they're like, I want to get there. How do I get there? And then Iridium or another big agency hits you up, and they're like, yeah, we can get you there, and it sounds good and everything like that. But like you said, you should do your research and talk to other fighters and stuff like that. And from what I know, everybody in Houston is mainly kind of cool with each other. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I interview a lot of fighters. I've talked to them, and they're like, oh yeah, I know him. Like, I've talked to him. I've sparred with him. This and that. Yeah. So, word gets around, but I'm pretty sure people are gonna take that and be like, oh, yeah, he's right. Like,
and see, I'm one of those things where maybe you just look up this interview and say, Orozco hit me up. He wants to manage me. Look at this interview. Jake Heffernan talks about him.
Talk about a reference. And
it's like, yeah, there you go, man. I'm your example, guys. Iridium, not that great. Orozco, awesome.
That's your experience. That's how it is. And nothing. And then you say you got shot.
Yeah.
So how? And I heard you say it was a hunting accident. Right?
Yeah.
But how did it happen?
Man, it was a stupid thing. We were driving. We had just actually finished hunting for the day, so it wasn't even like I was standing somewhere in a field and a stray bullet hit me. We were done hunting. We were boar hunting, so we were picking up the pigs that we had shot that day. And we had a wonderful day of hunting. It was probably my best day of shooting that I've ever had. I no-scoped a pig from like, no joke, like 50 or 60 yards away. Just like saw it running and just picked my rifle up, boom, shot it, got it right in the shoulder blades, dropped it. Everything was good. We're done hunting for the day. It was getting so hot. So it was actually funny. June 12th was my 5th anniversary for me being shot, which was yesterday. I totally forgot until just now. I didn't even celebrate it.
Oh, man.
That's funny. That's how long it's been. It's been 5 years since I got shot. 5 years and 1 day now. And we were done shooting for the day. We were picking up all the kills, and then we were in the hunting truck. There was a revolver in a holster on one of the guy's belts. We were driving, and then as we drove, we went up an incline, hit like a divot in the road, and the gun slid out of the holster, hit the truck bed, and went off. And it was an old Colt revolver, and it had a 45 hollow point in it. And which is funny, I actually got the bullet in my room from getting it removed from my shoulder. It went off, hit me in the elbow, and then after it hit me in the elbow, it just went up through my brachial artery and vein. It rode up the vein. It destroyed the nerve, and then it settled in my shoulder. And
it went for a ride.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then, at first when it happened, nobody even realized what would happen. And then my arm just started spraying blood like when you're a kid and you go to get water out of the hose for a drink. It just came out. It was crazy. Most amount of blood I've ever seen in my life, still to this day. And I was with Alex Morono and Matt Wald, my striking coach, and Alex, my head coach, and then one of our students that we do jiu-jitsu with. And luckily Alex was there because after it went into my elbow, he grabbed my arm, and thank God for black belt grips, because he grabbed my arm and he just squeezed it like a tourniquet and held my arm from me bleeding out because it was it was on an artery. And then they made a tourniquet real quick, and then they tied it off. But if he hadn't grabbed my arm,
you would have lost a lot of blood.
I would have lost so much blood. I could have died.
Yeah.
So literally, Alex Morano saved my life, and then went to a hospital. We were in the middle of nowhere. The hospital was like, we don't have the stuff to do the surgery you need. So then I got evac'd in a helicopter to downtown Houston, and they did all the surgery there. And, told me I would never move my right hand again. They were like, hey, man, you got shot in the nerve. Nerve damage is one of the worst things that can happen. So you probably never be able to make a fist again. And I was devastated. Went through about 3 to 5 months of pretty hardcore healing. Went to a rehab facility, Ironman Sports Complex, which is for athletes to go rehab knee surgery and different surgeries that they get from an orthopedic surgeon. And the guy that helped me out, his name was Andy Cox. Andy, you're number one.
Shout out Andy.
And man, he studied up the injury, which wasn't really a very well-known injury. I was one of the first people to ever be shot that way and have the bullet travel through my arm the way it did.
Yeah.
But he did all the studying on how to rejuvenate the hand. And I remember I went back to the neurologist who told me I wouldn't move my hand again, and I literally made a fist, and I was like, hey man, I thought you said I wouldn't do this again. And then a year later, on the week of the first year anniversary, was my first fight back against Justin Lin for Fury. And I fought him, and I won that fight, lifted up my arm, showed my scar, and I was like, here it is, guys. They said I wouldn't do this again. Wow. And that was it, man. It took a year off. Fought. I remember too, after I fought, my coach was like, man, this is one of those things, Alex Moroni, he was like, I needed to see you win to know that you would be okay. I'm so glad that we got past this. And it was it was awesome, man. But yeah, it was crazy situation. I don't, it's funny is it happened to me. So I can only imagine the guys that I was with, what it was like being on the outside looking in. Cause I was on the inside looking out. I don't know what they saw. But I can only imagine you see one of your best friends get his arm almost blown off, and then you also save his life so he doesn't bleed out. That's a crazy experience in itself also. So I went through it on the pain level, but they went through it on the, oh my gosh, Jake almost died level. Yeah. So, it was crazy all around, man. I'll tell you what, the one thing I do regret is I wish we somehow, some way had a live camera going so we could have had it and posted it online and then gone viral and then made $1 million from GoFundMe or something.
That GoPro or something.
Yeah.
Do you still hunt?
Yeah. I'm actually, it's weirdly enough, I'm an avid shooter. I'm sponsored by Copandero. Shout out to Copandero.
Shout out to him.
You know, I have more guns than I've ever had. I love shooting. It was not something that deterred me from shooting. In fact, back then I had one gun. I have like 12 now. I love guns. I love shooting. I love going hunting. I haven't been back to that hunting enclosure yet, but I do plan on going back. Shout out to Boars All Day. They also sponsor me quite often.
Shout out Boars.
And so I'm going to go back soon. Get a couple of pigs, but this time make it all the way to the point of getting the meat afterwards. So, you know, because when we left, we just left and went straight to the hospital. So
Yeah, we had other things to attend to.
All those pigs ended up just getting shoved out of the truck so I could get laid down in the truck. And then I'm sure they just went and threw them away or something after that, because you can't, like, it's so many hours had passed with everybody dealing with everything, and the police and the ambulances and all that. So, yeah, one day I'll go back and I'll go hunt that enclosure again, probably with a bulletproof vest on this time.
Yeah, can't be too safe.
Can't be too safe at this point, but I will tell you, I was the first guy to get shot on that enclosure, and they completely changed their rules on everything so that they could be even 10 times more safe. And they were super safe. Like, one of the reasons that I even made it was because one of the guys that was our hunting like guide for the enclosure was an Army vet medic. So he like immediately jumped out and was like, "This is what we got to do," and like, make the tourniquet, do this, do that. And so, like, you know, they were on point with safety, and it was just one of those crazy things that happened with the holster not holding the gun quite tight enough. But really, the truck going on the angle and hitting the hard bump was what really did it. But yeah, it's actually funny. I ran into a guy once, and he was like, "Man, I just got back from a hunting enclosure." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I've been to one before." And he goes, "Yeah, I know. It was the one you went to. I didn't realize it." But the guy started telling me about how this MMA fighter got shot on the property. And he was like, "Bro, was his name Jake Heffernan?" And they were like, "Yeah." It was so funny. So, yeah, you know, it's one of those crazy things. But, man, life has a way of happening. It's not about what happens to you. It's about how you deal with it. So, you know, we came back. We fought. We've been fighting since. So,
bro, do they have like a picture of you framed? I would.
Man, probably.
Oh yeah, you haven't been back.
Yeah, I don't know. I will tell you, I sent them a banner of mine from when they sponsored me.
Oh, nice.
From one of my walkout banners. So I sent that to them in the mail. So they probably have that hanging somewhere at the enclosure. Like, hey, that's the guy that got shot.
Imagine they have their own language. Like, because you know how you have your own lingo slang, and they're like, don't get Jake Heffernan. Yeah. Like, you better be careful. Don't
Man, we got the Jake protocol. Yeah, that's what it is. Like, it's not safety protocol. It's don't let the people that came here to hunt for fun get shot protocol.
Yeah. We got to go down the Jake procedures right now. Right. Like, make sure everything's good. You know, and shout out to your sponsors, man. Like, legit, you know, they're the heart and soul. They help, you know what I'm saying? They help. How does it feel to get that, and what advice do you have for people when it comes to like monetizing yourself? Because you yourself are the brand, you're the business. Yeah. You know, it's all, they're supporting you. They're funding your career and stuff.
One is make good decisions on social media. I'll tell you that right now. You can search my social media. I don't post inappropriate things. I don't have a political opinion on things. That's one thing where people don't realize, like, what you say on the internet is there forever. Even like I said, that YouTube fight where I fought that guy and it got removed, that's somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, it never left.
It never left. We just can't find it. Yeah. But if somebody did enough digging, I'm sure they could find that fight. But beyond that, you know, you represent yourself at all times, even when you think people aren't listening. You know, it's one thing, I do the commentary for Fury, and one thing that's always said to me is like, hey, you are on recording right now, even if you think you're not. Somebody is listening. So don't say stupid, outlandish things. And it's like, if you just carry that into life, you know, conduct yourself in a way where you know that you are representing yourself to the best ability. You know, how would you want your kids to view you? If you're doing something, how would my 8-year-old son view it? Wow. And that's something where maybe these fighters are like a little too outspoken online, a little, you know, keep your relationships off the internet. I'll tell you that. Facebook is for friends. It's not for people to get in on your relationship problems. Same thing. Like, I've been through a divorce. You can't tell if you go through my entire social media, other than the fact that my ex-wife isn't in any of my pictures anymore. So that's one thing is like watch what you do on social media. 2, yeah, you are the product. So take care of yourself. Like fighting and then getting super fat after a fight, like Patty Pimblett style, that's not good. That shows people that you don't take it as serious as you should. Like I'm always in shape. I'm always ready to take another fight. There's always obviously like a start, out of camp and in camp mode. But if you're starting camp and you got 25 pounds to lose before you can even cut weight, like you're making a mistake. So when you're going out to hunt sponsors, you got to remember, like, you not making it to the fight because you made mistakes, that only shows people that you don't take things seriously. And that's the same situation I'm dealing with right now. My original opponent for BKFC, we agreed to a 155-pound matchup, and the dude can't make weight. That's why we had to switch opponents. Yeah. And it's like, you signed a contract. You're a professional athlete. You knew 2-3 months ago that you couldn't make 155 pounds now. And let me just tell you, I've had some bad cuts, some hard cuts, but I made my weight classes. I don't get me wrong, I've busted weight before, but by like a pound, like I had a hard weight cut, but never like asking one of my matchups like, hey, do you want to go into another weight class? Because I made so many mistakes leading up till now, I'm nowhere near the weight class. Yeah. And that's what I dealt with this week. And it's like, dude, if you don't think your sponsors are looking at you going, hey man, you had like this really good matchup with this other really good fighter where you guys could have had this really awesome, fight of the night potential match, former Bellator fighter, former Fury FC fighter. It could have been awesome. It could have been amazing.
One for the books.
Yeah. And then you made diet mistakes. Yeah. Like if I'm paying for you to be in camp and then I find out that you couldn't stay away from Twinkies in camp, I'm gonna be pissed. You're not getting re-sponsored, I'll tell you that. Yeah. So that's one thing is like your body is your product. So take care of it. And then beyond anything else is the worst somebody can say on asking for sponsorship is no. So why not ask?
So what's your pitch? What's your pitch? Like, is it like a door-to-door sales where you just like hit them up on Instagram, or you just go into a business and you're like, hey, I'm a fighter. Would you like to sponsor me? I think it'd be a good opportunity.
Honestly, I don't ask people. I mention sponsorship that other people are doing for me in front of business owners. And then those business owners will say, that sounds interesting. How can I get into something like that? That's generally how all of it goes. I never say to somebody, hey, will you sponsor me? It's generally, oh, that's really cool. And then they'll go, oh, they'll mention something. And I go, oh, and then I'll try to like connect the dots. And somebody's like, oh, I really like going shooting. And I go, oh, I like shooting too. I go to this gun range. It's called Copandero. They actually sponsor me for fighting. So I get to shoot there for free because they sponsor me with a membership. And then they go, sponsorship for what? And I go, oh, well, I'm also a professional MMA fighter. And they're like, dude, that's super cool. How do I do something like that? And I'm like, you just gotta let me know.
You're smooth.
And that's generally how it goes. And then from there, you just gotta set your prices. Amateurs, I generally say like $250 to $500, maybe $1,000 if you're fighting for like a belt. Pro fighters start at $1,000. Start at $1,000, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. Give different sponsorship packages, free private lessons, free shirts, shout outs on interviews. There's all these little tiny things that you can do. One thing I have been doing lately is I make highlight videos of my training, and then I just put presented by this sponsor right at the end of the video, just like a commercial. And honestly, like I've had guys come back to me and they're like, dude, that's so cool. I showed that to all my friends. I showed it to other people that own businesses. They thought it was the coolest thing ever. And then beyond anything else is like, it's your business. Get an LLC. Like get an LLC, write people receipts, let them write off your sponsorship. And then also guys, like don't make this mistake ever. Pay your taxes on your fight money and pay your taxes on your sponsorship checks. Because you do not want that tax man to come hunting you down. I will tell you this. That was told to me when I was a very young amateur, and I've never had any tax issues. I have met guys that are broke, retired fighters that were like, I never paid a single dime on any of the things I ever received from any of my sponsors, and it came back to bite me in the ass years later. Like, trust me, you think that they're not looking, but they're looking. And so that's one thing is I write everything off. I write off my private lessons. I write off the gym, work that I do. I write off every single sponsorship check I get. Like I make sure I report all of that income so that I don't have any issues. And then that also shows a level of professionalism to the people that are wanting to sponsor you, to where they're like, man, this guy's really got all of his boxes checked.
Yeah, checking off all the boxes.
And so he's not like just looking for a quick payday. And then beyond anything else is make your fights. Like, don't get a sponsor and then not fight and then ask them to pay you again later. And I will tell you, if a fight does get canceled, you can't ask that sponsor to sponsor you again. You gotta fold that sponsorship to the next fight and then take care of them the way they took care of you. And then you'd be surprised how much they will in turn want to take care of you. And then beyond anything else, I'll tell you this, and you can take this with a grain of salt. Sometimes if dudes are like, hey man, it's just not, I can't do it right now, I can't sponsor you, I'll put them on the banner anyways. I'll put them on the banner, I'll put them on the shorts. Like you took care of me at one point in my life when I needed it, I'm going to take care of you because I want my homies to do well. And then the last thing I'll put you with is most of my sponsorships are parents from the gym that I train at. I train in the Woodlands. The Woodlands is like,
it's a nice area.
It's the nicest area. In Houston. So I know a lot of business owners, and then honestly, like I just make a good relationship with the kids. I'm one of the head kids coaches at Gracie Baja, the Woodlands. Make a good relationship with the kids. Do your best in just trying to be a good coach, and you'd be surprised the amount of people that want to support your career.
Of course, yeah.
I tell that to the amateur fighters. I tell that to the fresh pros that are just starting. Like, if you really want to make it in this sport, you gotta be the best version of yourself in front of everybody at all times. And that's something that I like live and breathe all the time. And I think that's kind of where it's paid dividends. I make a good amount of money fighting. I make 3 to 4 times as much in sponsorships. So yeah, that's what pays for all of this.
Yeah, you gotta come out with a book because I would read it.
Oh, I'll tell you this: I am in the process of writing a book.
Oh,
yeah, I am. I'm gonna give like a whole story of the first book. I don't want to give it away too early, but it'll be called The Amateur, and then the second book will be called The Pro. And then
you'll listen to the interview if you want to bleep it or whatever.
You're good.
But I would love.
I'm gonna give all my insights because man, I'll tell you. I know some of these guys like go to gyms and they don't exactly get the best examples set forth. And if you're ever going to a gym and you train for a month and they're like, we'll get you a fight. That's not the gym to be at. You need to be tested. You need to be pushed. You need to go cross train. You need to meet other pro fighters that have been through the game, and you need to get the most examples set in front of you. And I think that's something that I can't wait to do is write. It's not going to be a long book, but it'll be a book.
How many pages?
100, 200.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Because like I'm an avid reader. I love reading books.
Yeah.
And it's like I get intimidated with the 300 to 400 pages.
I'm like, no. I don't want to lose people
man.
halfway through, and I also have a bad problem with rambling on. If you guys haven't figured it out yet.
But how did you get so good with this, man? Like as far as monetizing, yourself. How did you get good? Because it sounds like, man, you really are on it.
100% honesty, Alex Morono has set every example for me that he can in being not only like my head coach in MMA, but my life coach. He's actually younger than me by a few months, but the guy is probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. And him being my head coach, he always says like I'm the number 2 at the gym when it comes to being like the kids coach and the jiu-jitsu coach. He gave me my black belt. He has given me a tutelage underneath him that has helped me in every aspect of life. All of the most successful things that have happened to me have come from my gym, and the owner of that gym is Alex Morono, and he is the head coach, and he is, again, like not only my MMA coach, but my life coach. Like even if I write something on Instagram and I incorrectly type it, he will immediately text me as soon as he sees it, and he'll be like, hey, man, you mistyped a word. And I'll go in and be like, oh, my gosh, thank you, and I'll correct it really quick. And it's like to just have somebody in your corner that's like wanting to see you do the best that you can and wants you to be the best version of yourself. And that's hard to find. And they say it all the time, other men don't want to see the men next to them doing well. And it's like, I don't know where you're hanging out. That's a weird thing because all of my best friends, Ricky Tercios, Alex Morono, Matt Wald, even one of our students, Troy Stell, like my group of men that I surround myself with, each one of us wants to see the other one do better than the other one. And then we're all willing to help each other through that. Even going through my divorce, there's a guy, I'll give him a shout out. His name's Kevin Barr. He helped me through it. I got another guy, Graham Dobson. He has helped me so much in my life, just giving me examples as well. Like all of these guys in my life that have just wanted to see me do as well as possible, wanted me to be the best version of myself. And so, that's one of those things where, even getting to be a commentator, Alex was like, hey man, you should apply. They're looking for a new commentator for Submission Hunter Pro and for the Challenger Series for Fury. And every once in a while you'll get to actually do the Fury shows. And I did like a mock interview type situation with him and kind of did the speaking and everything. And he was like, this is really good, man. You did very well. You know how to speak clearly. You stay to the point. You're not shy from talking. Yeah. Which one of the things about being a commentator is, dead air is one of the worst things you can have. Yeah. So that's one thing where I try not to let that happen when I'm commentating. And, but beyond that is he just, any decision I've made in life, I go to him and say, hey, what do you think about this? Wow. And he is there to be like, that's a bad idea, or that's a good idea, or that is a good idea, but you should do it like this, not the way you're thinking about doing it. And that's something that I'm super thankful for to this day. He's actually the godfather of my child because he's such a important and integral part of my life. So,
and as a man, like man to man, that's just, it doesn't get much realer than that. You know what I'm saying? Like just having a relationship like that with like brothers by choice.
Yeah.
Like we legit chose each other to be brothers. And Alex Moreno, a big name, but like hearing you say it, because some people don't say anything about their personal life or speak about themselves, because if somebody asks you, you're just like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But hearing this from you, I'm pretty sure if he hear this, he'll be like, wow, man, like we have been through a lot of crazy ass stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We have.
And it's just like, how did you guys meet? Like how did this relationship start?
Man, I remember it so vividly. I was in training. I had just joined an MMA gym off of not doing the stupid backyard brawls anymore. I remember he did not like me when we met because I wouldn't stop talking about the backyard brawls. And he had already been fighting at this point, real, actual fights.
Real deal.
And so he sees this little skinny kid who's actually a little bit older than him, but like this little skinny kid that's never fought before, talking, I want to be in the UFC, I want to fight, I want to do this, I want to do that. And he's just like, whatever, man. But yeah, I met him. He came into my gym to train with one of our coaches. His name was Gerardo Abadi, and God rest his soul. Also, by the way, he had passed away a few years back, and miss him to this day. But they had come to train with Gerardo, and they went. I remember seeing them. It was Ricky and Alex both came in the gym, and I saw them literally shadowboxing, and I was like, oh wow, that's how it's supposed to be done. I've been shadowboxing incorrectly. Who knew that you could do that wrong? And man, so I saw them, and then they just beat me up thoroughly every single time they came in. I think I don't remember what fight Alex had, but he would just come in. Him and Ricky would come in. I think Ricky was doing like amateur kickboxing at that time, but they would just come in and beat us all up. Like every single guy on the team, they would just beat us all up really bad. And I didn't know it, but they didn't like me because I just talked so much, and it was just all nonsense because I had no idea what I was talking about. But over time, they realized, like, man, this kid's here every day. He shows up every day, no matter how bad the beating was the day before. He's back the next day with 2 black eyes, ready to go again. And then the gym I was at was Champions Forest. Gracie Baja Champions Forest had closed at the time. It was under a different owner than it is now. It had closed, and I had another one of my like super good coaches, Jared Chafee, who owns Carlson Gracie now. But back then he was one of the head coaches for Gracie Baja as well. And he called me and was like, you should come to the Woodlands and come train. Like, you have a talent, it's granted it's very raw, but you could do this. You could be an MMA fighter. I was like, all right. So I went to the Woodlands, and Alex was already like the second in command at that time. He didn't own the gym yet, but he was like pretty much the head guy at Gracie Baja, the Woodlands. And then I just showed up literally every day as much as I could, addicted, like did not want to do anything but train all the time. And it just got to a point where when other guys wouldn't show up to train, I showed up. I made it to the gym. I canceled work. I completely immersed myself in full commitment of wanting to not only fight, but help the other guys train for their fights. And Alex just slowly was like, dude, this kid's committed. And so he just invested into me at that point. And it's funny, actually, when I had lost my first amateur fight, after Alex had asked me to fight, I fought 3 times, won, fought the 4th time, and it was 3 times. And then I fought the 4th time and lost. And then I was like the end of the world at the amateur level, which was actually, looking back, not a big deal. But after that, Alex was like, hey, you need to commit yourself more, even though you're fully committed. Because I was, I was a young kid trying to make it in life. So I had a job, I had to pay bills. But he was like, hey, let me get you a job here in the Woodlands. And because at the time I lived in Cyprus, so I was making an 1.5-hour drive every day to come train. And he got me a job. And then a couple weeks later, he actually got me a job at the gym. And then I was the front desk guy, like checking people in, doing memberships. And then eventually I became one of the coaches. And then just slowly but surely, like completely assimilated into head coaching with him. And literally have never looked back. So it's one of those things where I remember one of the nicest compliments he ever gave me was, he was like, it was just me and him training. And there was nobody else in the gym. All the other guys that weren't fighting at the time weren't training. And so he was like super upset, and he was like, man, and he looked at me and he goes, I wish I had 10 more guys just like you, Jake, because I don't know where everybody's at. And you got to remember, Alex fights at 170 pounds. At the time, I was a 35er.
Oh.
So he was beating me up and not getting good work in. And I was also super green. So he was just like, man, I need people to train with. And that's also how we ended up cross-training a lot, which is why we go to War or 4 Ounce or Team Took. And it's kind of how we got that kind of bridge started with all those gyms, is people weren't showing up. And I started going with him as much as I could to go cross-train at those gyms. And but yeah, man, just showing up every day and making him realize that I wanted to do this. It wasn't a pipe dream for me. It was like a full life commitment. And it just slowly became, not only was he my head coach, but we started hanging out every day, becoming friends, and then becoming best friends. And now he can't get rid of me if he tried.
So. And it's cool, man, because it's like that saying where it's like, you are who you surround yourself with, or surround yourself with the best type of people.
Yeah.
Like-minded people.
You can cluck with the chickens or you can soar with the eagles. It's your choice.
Yep. And y'all soaring, bro.
Yeah. I'm out here, so.
And how does it feel now, like, seeing everything you guys built? Because, like, what we talked about off air a little bit was, like, we talked about, like, how, you've been in this game so long, to where now, like, the upcomers, like Jose Cordova, Omega Level Thompson, Joe Hendershot, like, those guys are, you've helped them with their craft and their work, and now, like, you have champions, you have champions at Fury, one of the most established ways to go to the UFC. How does it feel now that you guys are like doing this now, instead of like, I mean, you guys are also fighting, but you also have, you have guys who you've taken under your wing, and you're helping them achieve their goals and stuff. Man,
it's really nice to see the way that the game has changed, I'll tell you. Because when I started fighting, there was like one Fury show. It was called Cage Combat back in the day. Mm-hmm. It was once every like 3 or 4 months. Now it's like constant. They'll do 2 shows in a weekend, Submission Hunter Pro and Fury.
Back to back.
They'll go to other cities. They'll go to other states. So the option on fighting is so much more prevalent, which I think is really cool. But then beyond that, they get to experience our experience.
Right.
So we don't let them make the mistakes that we made, even though there weren't that many. Obviously, we're both very successful. But, we being able to say, hey, don't do it this way, do it this way. This is how much you need to train. This is how much you need to take time off. This is the correct way to cut weight. These are the ways that you need to diet. We've experienced all of it together. Not only myself, but Matthew Wald and Ricky Tercios, like the 4 of us together have insight on how to be the mean coach, the nice coach, the experienced coach, the cool coach, all of those things. You know, we run the gym that same exact way. And to be a part of these young dudes' careers where they're, you know, the world is their oyster. The sky is the limit. Beyond that, like Josh, Joe, Jose, you know, Zach Adelig, he's also, you know, one of our amateurs. Those dudes are all probably going to be in the UFC. And to be able to be like a part of those corners is more exciting to me than anything else. Like, I'm going to go corner these dudes on the biggest stage in the world. I think that's so cool. And again, all of us want nothing but to see those dudes be as successful as possible. You know, honestly, the next guy to come out, which is he cross-trains at both gyms, but Cameron Graves, another guy that is so amazingly talented. He's the Fury 145-pound champ. Yep. You know, he was supposed to fight Michael Aswell.
Cameron Graves, yes.
Aswell got signed to the UFC, which is awesome. You know, I've commentated with Aswell as well, so that's, you know, one of those things where I was like crazy that he was going to fight one of my teammates. But I've seen Cameron come up since he was a little kid, and you know, I didn't know him when he was a little kid, but I've seen him. I know he's come up from that. I met him when he was about 18, 19 years old, you know, and so we've been in the game together forever, and he's probably one of the next guys in Houston to go to the UFC. And it's like, I can't wait to just be able to say, that's my teammate. I train with that guy, and watch him on the big stage. That's going to be so cool. And so it's just one of those things where you get to see these guys go through all these waves. You got the more experienced guys like Cameron Graves. You got the, you know, Joe Hendershot 4-0. You got Omega level Josh Thomas, who's a monster in the cage. And then you got Jose, who's got nothing but a bright future ahead of him. And then even like on the lowest, you know, form of just starting is Zach Adelig, who is just starting in the amateur, you know, scene, but he's doing so well. So we have all these guys that are just like getting all these great examples from us, but also shining in the process of it. And that's so like, just, it makes you feel so good on the inside. It's kind of like when I start my Mustang 5.0. Every time I start that engine up, it makes my heart just a little bit happy. Every time I see one of those boys win a fight, it's like I'm winning a fight. I'm as nervous as when they fight, and I'm as happy when I win, when they win. And I'm as sad when they lose. And it's one of those things where it's like, I'm so happy to be a part of that.
And, you know, the way you're talking about it is just like grand and great, right? But what have you personally gone through, if any, like hardships or troubles, like with coaches or anything like that, that made you experience, like made you the coach that you are today, where you're just like, you know what, I don't think that was good, or I did like that, so maybe I'll implement that.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I've been one of those lucky guys where, for the most part, my coaches have done nothing but set good examples for me.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
But I have seen other coaches for other teams make very bizarre decisions for guys fighting, that they've either accumulated a lot of losses or, you know, made the wrong choice in opponents, gotten opponent changes that they shouldn't take, that they take anyways, that causes a loss, or not tracking their fighters on their training regimen. I've seen that from other gyms. And I think that is something that me and Alex and Ricky and Matt have experienced. That's the outside looking in, where we go, that's a mistake. You shouldn't do it that way. And I think another thing that goes with that is, you know, one thing about Alex being the head coach at our gym is he had to go find someone that could push him to his best ability. In Saif Saud in Dallas at Team Fortis, which he's the #1 coach in the world. And that's not an over-exaggeration. That man is the smartest person that I've ever talked to about life, business, religion, social activities. Like, Saif Saud is literally the smartest person I've ever talked to in my entire life. And Alex sought him out, found him, and has been under him, and has had nothing but success being under him. And again, that just goes to show you, like, the people that I surround myself know that they're not the smartest person in the room. So they go to find the smartest person, and they get around them, and they start taking lessons from them constantly. So I think, you know, it's one of those things, again, where I've definitely seen bad coaching. I've seen odd decisions being made for certain fighters, but I have had the luck in my career to have good coaches that make good choices that lead me in the right direction for almost my entire career. So that's one fun thing about my career that maybe other fighters can't say, where they've had to switch coaches or camps or gyms. I've been at the same camp and same coaches my entire career, and I wouldn't change that for anything. So
that's great to hear, man. You know, you're also a father, and you speak so proudly of it. How is it being a fighter and a father? How is fatherhood overall?
Fatherhood was one of my dreams. I had a dream. I wanted to be a pro athlete. I wanted to be a champion in combat sports, and I wanted to be a father. So pro fighter, champion, father. Those were three of my big dreams. I just achieved my third dream of being a champion in combat sports. Granted, jiu-jitsu is a little bit different of a combat sport, but it's still pro combat sport. But yeah, fatherhood is so fun. I have a 6-year-old daughter, and I have an 8-year-old son. And, you know, they are, I tell people all the time, Ronan is my pride and joy. That's my son. And then Zeppelin is my heart and soul. That's my daughter. And I love them so much, and I've been through so much with them. You know, I'm divorced. I'm a single dad. So it's one of those things where I have been through the hardships, you know, just being there for them as much as I can. You know, I'm actually their primary caregiver, which is hard to say as a man in Texas. It's been a battle. I'll tell you, I've spent about $76,000 making sure that I can fight the good fight to keep them in the best possible situation. They make me want to better myself every single day. Like, they make me want to make the best choices. I constantly root back to, what would my son think? What would my daughter think if they knew that I was making this decision? And if the answer is not proud, having adoration, wanting to do things just like me, then I rethink and recontemplate. And I think I've done that really well. And I have fought tooth and nail to make sure that they have the best options going forward. And you know, it's one of those things. You know, it was difficult. I'd mentioned before, I've been through divorce. I had somebody in my life that was draining me physically, draining me mentally, draining me on a financial, you know, situation. And the one good thing about that was the gym that I train at, the support group I had, and then the children that I got from it. And, you know, it's one of those things where I wouldn't change a thing. It's terrible going through it. And I always tell the guys, like, be careful who you end up with, because they can hold you down and kind of ruin your career, which I don't think my career was ruined by anyways, but I definitely had some stopping points and hardships. And, you know, but the light at the end of the tunnel was the fact that I get to be a father. I get to raise two amazing kids. And the cool thing is I have a son and a daughter, so I don't have to have any more kids.
You got best of both worlds, man.
Yeah, that's right. I'm done. No more kids for me. I got a son. I got a daughter. I can't wait to be a grandparent.
I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then what is it that you told me? You tell the fighters, like, get that vasectomy.
Yeah, get the vasectomy now, and if you really like the girl, then go get it undone later on in life. That is a joke, but also kind of serious. My coaches are like, quit telling the fighters that. I'm just kidding. You know, don't go mutilate yourself. But be very cautious, because some people will want to see you do good in life, and then the second you do bad, they will turn their backs on you. And, you know, speaking from personal experience, it is one of the most devastating things you'll deal with in life, when you've invested so much into somebody and they start to, like, not believe in the process. And the second that they turn their back on you, it really does just floor you as a human being. And again, luckily I have the gym and support system that I have that helped me through that. I went through a lot of hardship. You know, it all happened around the same time that I also had been shot, is when my divorce started. So to have almost lost my right arm, almost lost my pro career, and then to have almost lost my family all at the same time. If I didn't have my gym, if I didn't have my team, I don't know what would have happened. But luckily I did, and I've gotten to experience the best part of that. And if I didn't have my kids to fight for, apart from fighting people in a locked cage, you know, who knows where I'd be at. So, you know, being a father really has saved my life in a lot of ways.
Amen, bro. I'm a father too, man.
Yeah.
They're the best thing, man.
It is.
They're the best. Well, a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. So, hold on, I had a brain fart.
Yeah.
I had a brain fart. But what can people expect from? Okay, I got it. What can people expect from you when you step inside the combat zone?
The squared circle. That's what they call it. Man, just a firefight. They call me the grinder. They call me the grinder for a reason. They call me the master of disaster for a reason when I was an amateur. I like to fight. I like to throw hands. If I can't grapple, then the fight must stay standing, and I'm more than willing to step into the fire. On the same end, I'm not going to get punched in the face to entertain people. So I will keep my hands up and my chin tucked, and I will bite down on my mouthpiece. We have 2 rules in fighting. Don't get hit the guy. I will follow those rules to a T. But I understand the concept that combat sports is an entertainment value. Mm-hmm. So I will not shy away from fighting. I will fight to my full potential. I will fight my heart out. I will leave it all on the line. I expect to be fully covered in blood, my own and my opponent's, when we fight each other. So expect it to be fight of the night possibility. And if not, people will be standing in their seats screaming about how entertained they are, because I'm one of those fighters where, again, I'm not going to try to get punched in the face, but I will come home with my shield, or I will come home on it. And that is the options that we are given with fighting. And so we will either punch this dude until he's not moving anymore, or he will punch me until I'm not moving anymore. And if you go in with that expectation of, I want to finish him in the first, or the second, or the third, or the fourth, or the fifth, but I'm okay with it going all 5 rounds. I am totally okay with it being a barn burner style match. And I think that's one thing that makes it to where people will always want to watch you fight, is that you are going to fight. I'm going to fight this guy. We're in a small ring. There's only 2 minutes per round. We gonna fight. We gonna throw some hands at each other, and then there's no getting around that. And so expect a firefight.
How would you summarize your career?
Complete, but still evolving. I did what I wanted to do in MMA. Some people are like, oh, you never won the pro title. That's okay. I fought all the guys that fought for the pro title. So I didn't miss out on anything. I'm a staple, a well-known name in the Houston community. Mm-hmm. There's not a gym I go to that people aren't like, I know who that is. I've even been sitting in on Alex Morono's interviews for the UFC, yeah. Mm-hmm. And guys look over at me and they're like, oh, that's Jake Heffernan. So it's like, maybe I didn't make it to the UFC because of my MMA career, but the options were there.
Yeah.
I fought for Dana White on Dana White's Looking for a Fight, the YouTube channel that he runs with Matt Serra. So I had my opportunities. Those were where my hiccups came in MMA, but no big deal. Again, I fought all the hardest dudes in Houston, so I'm happy with it. And then beyond that is, like I said, it's completed, but it's still evolving. I'm still having the options. They just did UFC BJJ. They just did that, and I'm still looking to, I'm going to defend my title for Submission Hunter Pro. I'm going to challenge for the Submission Hunter Pro gi title as well, so I can have, be champ. Champ is the goal. And then 155 gi, 155 no gi, champion of Houston, of Texas, of this side of the country. And then I'll make an argument to the guys who run that UFC BJJ program, like, yo, let me in. I can still get signed to the UFC. Yeah. So again, like, jiu-jitsu is one thing that never ends. You might get older, but I feel like jiu-jitsu is where you can just continue to get better and better and better the older you get. And so it's not a stopping point. Like MMA does have a finite amount of time. Yeah. You can only fight for so long. You can only, even bare knuckle, you can only do that for so long. Your body will eventually give up on you when it comes to taking physical damage. But good jiu-jitsu is good jiu-jitsu. You can roll with people till you're 60 and you can, I've seen, you know, dudes that are in their 40s and 50s rolling with guys in their 20s and 30s, and they do just as good. You know, jiu-jitsu is not like MMA. It's not like boxing. You can fully pursue that for as long as possible, and that's something that I'm going to continue to do. And then beyond that, as I get to commentate the fights, I think that's something that I really want to pursue as well. I'm going to meet Chris Lytle next week because he's one of the commentators for BKFC, and that's one of the things I'm going to bring up to him is like, hey man, I just want to be commentating fights. Hopefully, like, you guys will see, you know, me fight. I'll go bust this dude up. Maybe I get offered to commentate with you on a BKFC card one day. That would be super awesome. And then eventually maybe UFC commentator or an analyst or something like that. You know, it's the avenue of martial arts is not just fighting. It's coaching, it's commentating, it's commentary, it's doing interviews, podcasts, explaining people your experience, writing a book. Like, these are all things that, like, you just don't ever finish. And the one thing that will always be there is coaching. No matter how old you get, until I can't walk and go to the gym, I will be helping the younger crop come up. So again, I feel like my combat sports career in certain ways is completed, but it's also ever evolving. So it's one of those things where it's not over, but I can stand with my head held high and say that I've done so much and I'm continuing to do more. But I'm so happy with where my career has gone and everything I've dealt with, whether it's been the ups, the downs, the negatives, the positives, the victories, the losses in life, in competition. All of it's been amazing.
What would younger you say? What would younger you think about older you now?
He's ugly. What happened to his nose? Why do his ears look like that? And then probably, I can't wait. I would hope that my younger me would look at me knowing that he is me and say, I can't wait. You know, maybe he sees my kids, maybe he sees that I'm one of the head coaches at the gym, and I would hope that he looks at me and just gets excited for what the future can hold. And I wouldn't say a word to him. No warnings. Experience it. Enjoy it. Go through the hardships. Go through the tears. Go through the tears of happiness, the tears of joy, the tears of hardship, the tears of depression and loss and all that stuff. Because life is a ride, man. And we only get from the age of 20 to, 40 or 50. Those are the years that you get to really chase the dream. And it's such a small amount of time. And so it's, experience it for exactly what it is. Enjoy it as much as you can. And again, I wouldn't give him any warnings. I would just tell him, like, hey man, get ready. It's a ride, and you're gonna come out on the top with your head held high, and that's all you need to know. And so I wouldn't change a thing.
Man, I appreciate you taking the time having this conversation with me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's wrapping it up. Anything you want to say to you want to shout out your sponsors, thank your friends, family, supporters? Go ahead.
One thing is I appreciate BKFC for signing me and getting me fights. Keeping, especially this week where, we're still fighting. We went through a little bit of a debacle with my opponent, an opponent change, and I understand things like that happen, and luckily we had enough time to get a new opponent, so I appreciate them. My sponsors, Copandero, my gym, Gracie Baja, The Woodlands, my coaches, Alex Morano, Matthew Wald, Ricky Tercios, and then beyond anything else is my other sponsors, Vinnie Vincent Real Estate, Armored Realty Group, Space City Collective, the sneaker shop, they sponsor me for this fight as well. I'm drawing a blank for a heartbeat. I'm gonna look this up really quick. Let me look up my actual sponsors so I don't make any misses. We got Case Ray. That's one of those awesome sponsors of parents at the gym that just want to see me do like great things. They are amazing. Redline Roofing, again, another, sponsorship out of the gym. One of the parents that want to see me do great. From my manager, my awesome manager, I appreciate him really, like more than anything, for getting this all hooked up. But he got me hooked up with Apollon Nutrition, Bayou City Tattoos. The reason I look so good with all this ink. You guys are going to see a finished chest piece soon when I fight, which is nice because I've had an unfinished chest piece for about a decade. So it'll be pretty awesome to fight with that. Wild Spur boots. I once walked out in a dope pair of cowboy boots that they let me keep. Probably one of the most expensive items that I own to this day. Wow. So Wild Spur boots, you guys are awesome. Resurgence Massage Therapy. That's another new sponsor that came out of the gym. If you guys haven't got a dude that'll come and do home visits or let you come to his house to get massages, hit up my boy in Resurgence. Legacy Spine Care. They have been my chiropractors for like the last decade or more. There's one thing that I will add in just so you guys know for these amateurs and these upcoming pros. Get yourself a chiropractor. Get yourself somebody that can take care of the small little bumps and bruises because those things will get worse and worse over time. And then I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. So, all these different sponsors, without you guys, none of this is possible. You can't continue to chase the dream unless you have a solid support group. And even though the gym is awesome and even though the coaches are awesome, it's up to you to do the work to make sure that you can eat correctly, that you can go to sleep knowing your bills are paid, and train your butt off every single time you're in the gym. So shout out to all those sponsors.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me here. And we out.